Is there any place where there is only happiness? Is there any place where there is no politics? Is there any place where everyone loves each other? Is there any place where there is love which is there in everyone's heart for the other person? There is no envy. Does a place like this exist? So there can be a question that where in this entire globe, where in this entire cosmic manifestation, where is that place? Place where there is happiness, place there where there is peace, place where people are ready to sacrifice, place where people have hearts, place where people are ready to serve each other. So that place is where, you know, the happiness is going to be around. So discover the happy planet. Today's topic is going to be around this understanding. But here to understand, the most important thing is that what this cosmic manifestation is all about. If something is happening, what is the reason behind that happening? If something is, so as we were discussing in the previous sessions as well, the reason behind anything to happen, there is a cause. If something is happening, there is a reason why it is happening. Nothing happens just because things are happening. Things happen because there is a reason, there is a purpose, right? You feel hunger, why? Because the body needs nourishment. You feel thirst because the hydrogen level, the water level of the body is reducing. To fulfill that water level, you feel that thirst. So for everything, there is a reason. Next slide. I mean, yeah. So there can be a question, what is a cosmos? Have you heard about a cosmos? How many of you know that there is something called as a cosmos? So when you talk about a cosmos, this entire universe, this entire universal creation in single word is called as a cosmos. This cosmos is having multiple planets, which are multiple galaxies which are hanging around, and there is sun in center of each of the galaxy, and around that there are multiple planets, and these planets are revolving around that sun. So there are multiple planets, multiple planetary systems, and there is a big combination of planets, stars, and galaxies. That is called as a cosmos. And just think about one's own self. Just think about where you stand, where we stand, where I sit. The place where I'm sitting is even so small that you cannot even locate it in this entire cosmos. That is how small we are. We are small here, but we have a big thing which is causing all the problems. When we talk about problems, what is the main cause of problem? Why do you think that we have some issues with one another? We have some problems with one person is having a problem with another person? What is the issue? There is just one reason: ego. Although we are so small in size, but the ego that we have is huge, is as big as a big tower like Burj Khalifa. And desires, the tendency to enjoy, the tendency to get, to achieve something which is for me. I own that. That tendency is something which is so huge and big. And although we are infinitesimally small and tiny in terms of this entire cosmos, but these factors which are affecting it are huge and big. Now, whenever I used to be in my school during 6, 7 standard, we used to have this subject, right? The planets revolving around the sun, and there are like, what was that? Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and then later Pluto was removed from our solar system, right? If you just see here, there are multiple galaxies which are there around. Can you see that? All these beautiful galaxies, I used to think, what is there above that? Just imagine there is Earth. And from the Earth, if you see on the top, you see infinite. And when you see down, what do you see? You see a land. You see the place where you are sitting or standing. But that is a circular stuff. So if Earth is a ball, there is something above and there is something beneath. So in beneath, there must be a place where, this planet is hanging. No, it is infinite. And on the top, it's infinite. So this used to bring me a lot of astonishment, that how is it possible that it's infinite up and infinite down? How the planets, the people who are discovering different planets and galaxies are not able to say so, that what is there on the top and what is there what is there beneath? We do not have the answer to it. So now there can be a question that, there must be some answer from the scriptural perspective. Yes, we have some answers, but we will eventually open it for all of you all. So now the question here is, what is holding this planet together? When you talk about these planets, they have different motions, and still they have different orbits. They are so heavy, but they do not collide with each other. How is it possible? This is happening. Why? This is happening because there is some synchronization behind this. Someone is there who is trying to balance all these planets, all this big coexistence. My dear friends, the word which I'm using has a lot of value. Coexistence. When we are talking about existence, it deals with me, it deals with us, it deals with an individual entity. But when we talk about coexistence, it's not just about a selfish me, but it is about a larger audience. It is about people who are not just thinking about one's own self, but are thinking about a larger section. So now this question can again come, that how can a place, is there any place in this entire planet, in this entire creation, where people are really happy? So yes, there are places where people are happy, and we will get to know that what those places are and where people are really happy. Do you know who is landing down from the staircase? It's the Joe Biden. His name is Joe Biden, the president of United States of America. And this aircraft from which he's landing down, he's coming down, is called as Air Force One. So Air Force One, there can be a question, that why am I discussing about Air Force One here? So let me tell you about it. Air Force One is designed in such a fashion that it does not allow any missiles to come and hit it. It has got so much fuel that the entire Earth can be revolved at least 3 times without any stop. It has got, to mention that it has got a hospital inside it, or it has got, it has got missiles to leave for a destination and destroy the people who are standing on the enemy side, is a very small thing. It is called as a fort, flying fort. That is the capacity of this aircraft. Now the question is, who made this aircraft? If this has been created, there is a purpose why it has been created. Why so much money has been spent to make an aircraft, a wide body aircraft with so many specializations? There is a reason. Do you know what is the reason? To protect, to defend. And why is it needed? Why this defend? Why to defend? Because everyone is envious to one another. Everyone is thinking that, you know, why this nation is the most glorious nation, why that nation is the most glorious nation, why Russia and Ukraine are fighting, why? So there can be a question, there can be like someone can say that, hey, it's like they are wanting to have something of their rights, they're wanting something to have which is more for their rights basically. But in short, if you see, it's something which is more deeper. It's not the country which is fighting. It's not India fighting with Pakistan. Indians fighting with Pakistan. It's not that T20 match India Pakistan. India won. There are a lot of crackers in the sky. India loses. There is a lot of crackers on the other side of the um, on the other side of the border. What is that? Why are we differentiating with each other? There is only one reason. The cause of differentiation, the cause why we think that we are different from others, is envy. We do not value the word coexistence. Why? Why? Because this coexistence gave equal right to the other party also. That, hey, you are equally important in my life. So our life has value to everything, but not the mutual coexistence. And since we do not value the mutual coexistence, therefore, therefore, a country has to spend $700 billion to make an aircraft which is called as Air Force One. Can you see this limousine? How does it look? It's a huge car, has got a big chassis over which this entire car is resting. This entire stuff is resting. The President of the United States uses this car, and the manufacturer is Bentley. Wonderful car. Amazing, amazing, in terms of everything, all luxury facilities. It contains the blood, blood of the president. If there is any emergency, this car has sufficient equipments to support the life system of the president of the United States. Now there can be now I'm asking you a question. Why is it needed? Do you know when India got its independence, that time, the Indian president didn't had a limousine. What they used to have was a buggy, and on that buggy, the president used to come from the Raisina Hills and used to come till the Rajpath for the Republic Day parade without any fear. Do you know why there was no fear? There was no fear because there was faith. Faith that these are my people. They are not going to do anything to me. Right? The prime minister of this nation went to a state, and in that state there were multiple people who blocked his way. And the prime minister was angry. Why? Because he was getting threats. Why there is threat? Why people are fighting? What is the cause of that fight? The cause of fight is not outside. The cause of fight is not between the countries. The cause of fight is not between people. The cause of fight is inside the heart. The cause of fight is inside the heart, wherein the heart does not allow the coexistence and cooperation. And that is the reason why there are conflicts in this nation. That is the reason why there are conflicts within the nation. And this is the reason why there are difficult coexistence of people. When you talk about, contrary to this, when you talk about the Indian culture, when you talk about the Indian understanding, what does the scriptures say? Scriptures say Vasudeva Kutumbakam. This entire planet, this entire globe, this entire earth, this universe is a family. is one family. It's not just Indian is brother to Pakistani, Pakistani is brother to Irani, Irani is brother to next country, that is Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, and so on. No, it's not like that. The entire planet is a family, and that includes plants, that includes animals, that includes trees. That is what coexistence is, wherein everyone support each other to grow to a level wherein they live together happily. Does it make sense? So now there can be a question that who is the creator? So when at this stage at least we know that God is the creator of everything. If God is the creator of everything, then probably envy is also created by God. It's God who has created this envy. It is God who has created this ignorance. It is God who has created this selfishness. It is God who has created this thought that all these things which are available around belongs to me for my enjoyment. I remember a very beautiful story, a very small story here to tell you. One time, the ISKCON founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, was traveling in a flight, and he was traveling from Montreal to San Francisco. So while he was flying that time in 1976, 1977, I think that time, the pilot, he got to know that a Swami, Indian Swami, who has been very popular because of this Hare Krishna movement, is also traveling around in the same flight. So this pilot, he decided to come back towards the galley and speak with Prabhupada, the founder Acharya, and he asked that, Swamiji, if you don't mind, would you like to come along with me and sit in the cockpit? So Prabhupada, founder Acharya, agreed that yes, I will go and I will sit along with you. So Prabhupada went inside that cockpit and he sat there. And in that small place wherein three people can sit, this pilot, who was rather he was trying to ask certain questions, but the mood was such that it was more like an argument, or he was wanting to challenge. So in that mood, he asked a question. He said that if cause of everything good is Krishna, if cause of everything is Krishna, then cause of bad is also Krishna. Cause of bad is also God. That was the question which was raised by this pilot. And our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, was so brilliant that he answered it very well. So this was the time when the flight was going from Montreal to San Francisco. And it was night there in Montreal, but while they were moving towards San Francisco, it was daylight. So while the flight was coming towards the daylight, that time Prabhupada made a very beautiful point. Prabhupada said that what is the reason why you are able to see these beautiful mountains? So this pilot was like, he was not able to understand why this question is being asked now. Then Prabhupada again asked him that why you are able to see these beautiful mountains. Very scientifically, he answered that we are able to see these beautiful mountains because there is light falling on it. Then Prabhupada asked that from where that light is coming. And then very nicely, this person answered from the sun. And then Prabhupada counter questioned him and asked him, what would have happened if there was no sun? Would you be able to see that beautiful mountain there? And he said no. And he got trapped in his own question. So Prabhupada very nicely mentioned this beautiful thing, that the cause of every good thing is presence of God consciousness. And everything which is bad happening is because of the absence of God consciousness. When the God consciousness is there, when people are aware that we are being watched by someone, then people fear to do anything wrong. And do you know, fear is the least or the lowest stage wherein someone thinks that whether something should be done or not. The highest stage is understanding the value, and understanding the value, based on that understanding, deciding whether one should do something or not, is the perfection of life. And that is why when we say something that if everything good is created by God, then everything bad is happening because of the absence of God. भगवान के ना होने के कारण से जो भी खराब चीजें होती है वो होती है. And therefore God consciousness is important. To God consciousness is important and is the only thing which is needed to have a happy planet. Can you see this beautiful puppies? So this breed of dog is called as Labrador. Can you see all these puppies around? So beautiful, isn't it? They look beautiful, right? Now tell me one thing. Just before these beautiful puppies were born, the mother of this dog didn't had a single drop of milk in her breast. And the moment these puppies are out, the moment the puppies are out from the womb of the mother of this dog, there is ample, ample amount of milk available in the womb of the mother of this dog. Now my question here is that why is it possible? How is it possible that just before the delivery there is no blood, there is no milk, and the moment the delivery has happened, there is ample amount of milk for all the puppies? She is such a small living entity, and she has the capacity to feed at least 10 to 15 puppies. Why is it possible? What is making this happen? A big question, right? There are certain things which are happening in this planet. There are certain things which are happening around which have no practical scientific reason. And since they do not have any scientific reason, maybe there you people are really clever people, I know this. So you may say, "Arey, wo to oxytocin secrete hota hai, and because of the secretion of oxytocin there is milk coming out from the womb of the from the breast of the mother dog, that is why it is happening." Now my question to you will be, if you ask this question, that who created this mechanism wherein breast milk will be secreted through the oxytocin hormone? There is someone who created this, who synchronized this in such a fashion that whatever is needed is available. So just see, there are 10 to 15 small puppies who have taken birth from this mother dog, and there is sufficient milk for all the 10 to 15 puppies. Now just imagine, we all have taken birth in this planet, and since we have taken birth in this planet, we may think that I deserve more or I deserve less. But Mother Nature, God, has provided a sufficient for our need. But there is a very nice saying, there is always sufficient for our needs, but it is always insufficient for our greed. Do you know, all this problems which are happening around, all these difficulties which countries are facing with each other, which people are facing with each other, boss and their junior subordinates facing ego issues? Why? There is just one reason. What is that? Everyone wants more than what they are getting. Everyone wants much more than what they deserve. Do you know who is a happy person? Happy person is that person who is happy with whatever he gets, because that is what he deserves. Who is an unhappy person? Who is always sad with whatever he has. So if someone wants to grow, if someone wants to grow higher and higher, what does he needs? Do you know what does he needs? He needs satisfaction in his heart. And when he gets satisfaction in his heart, then he can be a happy person and everyone around him will be happy. Can you see this? How many of you know that there is something called as a butterfly? So these butterflies are special butterflies. The name of this butterfly is monarch butterfly. Do you know why these are called as monarch butterfly? Do you know what is the story behind the migration of these beautiful butterflies? I'll tell you the story. So, from the west coast of United States of America to the east coast, these butterflies fly. So now there are certain trees over which these butterflies live while starting from the west coast towards the east coast. Do you know what happens? These butterflies fly from one corner from the east west coast towards the east coast, and there are four generations which are involved in this travel. So the first butterfly reaches somewhere to, in between to Colorado or somewhere, and they stay there, and then they give birth to the next generation. The next generation then again starts moving, and they reach to somewhere in between, and then when they reach to the west coast, that's the fourth generation. Fourth generation is reaching there, and now they go back. Now when they go back, then the eighth generation reaches back to the same tree and sits on the same place from where his first ancestor started. Just imagine, eight generations have passed. They start from west coast to east coast and go back from east coast to the west coast, and when they reach the eighth generation is the one which reaches back to the same place from where his eight previous ancestors started, and he sits on the same tree and the same leaf from where the first one started. So do you think it's a very normal thing? Does it appear that it's very simple and not a complex thing, it's an easy stuff which is happening? Do you think like this? No. In reality, there is a lot which is happening. Each generation is passing the same information to the next generation. The next generation is passing the same information to the next generation. The next generation is passing to the next generation. And since they're passing the same information in the most appropriate fashion, that is the reason why the butterfly reaches back to exactly the same place from where the eighth ancestor started. Now, I would like to relate it to the Vedic culture that we are following. In the Vedic lineage, from Guru, the disciple gets some education. That education, the disciple passes it on to his disciple. His disciple passes it on to his next coming disciple. And in this way, the knowledge is coming. So, what if someone in between decides that maybe my way should be a different, I should do it in a different style, and he tries to change it a little bit? Then what happens? When they try to change it a little bit, the entire process is completely devastated. So now let us understand in this fashion. If the knowledge, have you seen that game wherein people stand behind each other and they try to draw something and someone in the front draws something else only? And in this way, when it reaches to the final person, the message is completely changed and it's a mess altogether. So now my question to you is that if we have such errors passing the message, then these animals, these small insects are doing it so well. How is it possible that after eighth generation, the butterfly sits exactly on the same place from where the eighth ancestor started. So Vedic civilization is like this. When you talk about the Bhagavad Gita as it is, the ICER students were fortunate when they came here in our temple. We gave them Bhagavad Gita. So that is not Bhagavad Gita, just Bhagavad Gita. That is Bhagavad Gita as it is. Do you know what does that mean? Bhagavad Gita as it is means that the knowledge, the words which were spoken by Krishna to Arjuna, which is applicable to all of us, has not been diverted, deflected, disrupted, or changed even to this much. Not a single tinge, not even a tinge has been changed. It is as it is, and that is why the Bhagavad Gita that we share with you all is called as Bhagavad Gita as it is. So therefore, the scriptural knowledge that we get from the disciplic succession, from the people who are having those values in them, those who are trying to give the message exactly coming from their seniors to the lower people, to their disciples, and their disciples accept it as it is and they try to give it to their disciples, then the real message is transferred. And do you know, when the real message of scripture is transferred, then there is no problem. There is no problem of issues which are related to envy, which are related to non-cooperation and non-coexistence with each other. Let's move to the next slide. Have you seen these trees? Anyone knows these trees? These are called as redwood trees. These redwood trees are as long as 7-story buildings. So huge, so big. So when people started to understand that why these are so big, so huge, and what makes them so big, and their trunk is as thick as a car, a big car. It is as thick as a big car, and they're long and they are existing like anything. Anytime if you get chance, do type in Google redwood trees. You will get a lot of content on that. Do you know all these big trees, they have been standing like this since many years, at least 6 to 7 thousand years. 6 to 7 thousand years they're standing like this. Now there can be a question: how are they standing like this? There must be something which is different from the other trees which are making those other trees fall down, but these trees carry on and on and on. There must be certainly something. Do you know what is that? When the scientists decided to figure out that what is the reason, why are they able to sustain so long, it was not on their trees, it was not on the leaves, it was not in the trunk. Do you know where it was? It was on their roots. Now when you see the roots, all the forest, all the redwood forest that is there, have all these roots intertwined with each other. They're intertwined with each other means what? Do you know? This intertwinedness means that whatever nourishment they are extracting, what one single tree is extracting, it is sharing with the rest of all the trees which are around. One single mineral, which is being extracted by a single tree, the single tree is not selfish to keep it for itself. Rather, the tree decides that let me share it with the entire network of my brothers and sisters standing next to me. That is mutual coexistence. And do you know what is the best thing about it? Do you think? Don't you think that this forest have not been through any sort of cyclones? Mind my words, these trees are found in the most cyclone prone areas, but still never a single tree got uprooted. And the question is, do you know what? their roots. Why? Because their roots have enough strength to not let the other tree fall. And when one tree is getting shaked, the other tree, with the help of their roots, try to protect that. That is making this beautiful tree and the forest to grow. Does it make sense? So now let me relate it to the happy planet we are talking about. Now, if everyone thinks in this fashion, if everyone thinks that let me think about just myself, let me just think about my nourishment, let me just think about the way I can grow, let me have an iPhone, let me have an iPad, let me have an iPod, and so on. This I, my, mine has got no end. And since this I, my, mine, mera, maza, amar, this has got no end. And since this has got no end, that is the why people here are suffering. When people start thinking that let me not keep things for myself, rather let me share things with everyone, there will be peace and happiness everywhere around. This is the smallest cell. This is the smallest cell. Do you know which cell is it? Anyone knows? This is the present Omicron virus. Cell of the size 10 to the power minus 9 micron. So small, you cannot even see it from your eyes. कमाल कर दिया इसने. All the trade which was happening once the coronavirus got lifted a little bit has again stopped. 10 to the power minus 9 micron is the size of this small cell, but living entity. Soul is there inside it. And since there is soul inside it, it has got that tremendous potency to do what? To change the life of people. Just see, situations are changing, life is changing. This entire cell, small cell, has got Golgi apparatus, has got mitochondria, has got multiple cell units, has not got a cell wall because it's not a plant cell. I remember, although I'm a very poor bio student, it has been quite long time that I have studied bio. But what I'm trying to say is that this cell in itself is having the capacity to exist. Why? Because it has been made in such a fashion that it can coexist in its own self individually. Now it is existing individually. This individual existence is causing what? This individual existence is causing mortality. This individual existence is causing what? People dying because of it. Why? Because there is an individualism. My existence. How am I going to exist killing the other cells? Do you know the curd we eat? It has also got some cells, but those cells are good cells. They help you in digestion. So there is always something good and there is always something bad. But we have to understand that when I am in a situation, how I can make things good, how my contribution can bring things to a better place, how my contribution can change things towards better. That is what one should always think. Ideally, one should never think that how I can get benefited. One should always think that how I can benefit others, how I can serve others. That is what one can do. Let's move to the next slide. Have you seen this ever? This is the cockpit of an aircraft. Can you see this? There are two seats, and exactly the same composition is there on both the sides. Do you know what is the reason? Reason is that whenever the captain sits on the left side and the first officer sits on the right side. Why there are two people? There are two people so that if a situation happens wherein one gets sick or has got some trouble flying, the other one can fly. Now, one time there was a flight which was flying from London to Pyongyang, that is in North Korea. Okay, so sorry, Pyongyang is in South Korea. I'm sorry. So when the flight was coming towards South Korea, and while that flight was coming, that time the captain and the co-captain didn't had that much understanding, and since they were lacking in this understanding, there was a trouble which they were facing, a trouble which manifested into a big issue. What happened, on the captain's side, the altimeter was showing some value, and on the first officer's side it was showing some other value. But since there was this dominant captain who was not wanting to hear anything coming from the first officer, he was not ready to listen to anything from the first officer. The first officer was constantly observing that the altitude of the aircraft is reducing and reducing and reducing. If the altitude reduces to so low level wherein they cannot control things, the plane might crash. Do you know what? The ego that these two people had did not allow the first captain, the first officer to say this to the captain. And this led to the lives of 320 passengers flying in this 787 Dreamliner aircraft. Now, my question to you is, a small thing, a small ego which was there caused this such a big issue. Life of 320 people who were flying. Do you think it's a small thing? Why it happened? Just because of one small thing. Ego, which was not allowing that small thing to be said, that the altimeter is not working fine, led lives of 320 people. Now the question is here, as I started saying that आचल के तुझे मैं लेके चलूं एक ऐसी गगन के तले जहां गम भी ना हो आंसू भी ना हो बस प्यार ही प्यार पले. Let me take you to that place where there is no sadness, always happiness, 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 happiness. Everyone is happy, nicely situated. Let me take you there. So where is that place? Do you know where is that place? In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Matta parataram nanyat kinchit asti dhananjaya mai sarvam idam proktam sutre manigana iva. Do you know what does this mean? Oh Arjuna, everything rests upon me. As string, as every... Just 1 second. Let me just... Yeah. As pearls are strung on a necklace. Do you know? When you see here, you will see a necklace. But can this all necklace stay alone? Can all this necklace coexist alone if there is not a factor to connect all of them to one single entity? Do you know what is that? As Prabhupada mentioned, when there is light, the cause of all good is that light, right? You can see all good just like light. All good things happen because of the God consciousness. Similarly, when you talk about this string is coexisting because there is one thing which is connecting all of that towards to all of that in one, as one single entity, all these pearls as one single entity, and that is that string. So Krishna says, I am that string which is holding everyone as a single entity. So now this beauty of the necklace can be said that is so bright and beautiful. Why? What is the reason behind the beauty of this beautiful necklace? The reason behind the beauty of this beautiful necklace is that they are together. If these pearls are separately placed in different areas, do you think it will be that beautiful? It is beautiful. The only reason is that they are all together. They are all meeting a purpose. That purpose is what? That purpose is to beautify the beautiful deity of the Lord. So when we talk about that place which is really happy, that place wherein there is no sadness, there is always happiness, where everyone is happy, everyone is safely situated, there is peace, no one is angry on other, that place is that place is the place wherein God resides. That is that place wherein God consciousness is practiced. That is that place wherein scriptural, the way on the basis of scripture, the life is led. That is that place wherein people care for each other, seeing each other as brothers and sisters of one single Father who is God, Krishna. And that is the place wherein you can find that happiness. So I have one solution for you all. If you really want to find that place, you may definitely find it in scripture. It is the place where Krishna lives in Golok. Okay. But just like just like there are embassies. Do you know what are embassies? If you go in Pakistan, there is an Indian embassy there. And when you go in that Indian embassy, it is India within Pakistan, right? If you go in Iran, there is an Indian embassy. If you go there, it is India within Iran. Similarly, in this entire material world, there are small embassies wherein you can find Krishna, where you can find people who are happy, wherein people are not envious to one another, wherein people love each other, wherein people care for each other and are ready to serve each other. And do you know what those places are? Those places are temples wherein Lord lives. So I invite you, every one of you, to kindly come to these embassies wherein Lord lives in the form of his deities, along with his devotees, where they happily live. And that is a small place wherein you can see how the spiritual world look like. That is the place where you can take a glimpse of spiritual world. With this, I would like to end my today's session. Thank you very much for having this patience to hear me. And the session is open to every one of you. If you have any questions, you can openly ask me. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions?